years, California has been known for being a Democratic or blue state. But California was not always the progressive state it is now. The shift to a blue state is best highlighted by Prop 187, an anti-immigrant proposition in the 1994 presidential election. It was passed and revoked by the courts the following year. The main purpose of the Save Our State initiative, as it was commonly known, was to prevent undocumented immigrants from receiving public education, non-emergency health care services, and financial assistance. The proposition also forced those who provided these services to report any person who they suspected to be undocumented. Overall, the proposition aimed to make conditions for undocumented immigrants in California so miserable that it would discourage new immigrants from moving in and force those who were already living in California to move back to their countries. Although this initiative was expected to save our state from illegal immigration, it actually guaranteed that California remained in support of immigrants to this day. Prior to the 1994 election, California voted Republican, or red, for the last 6 elections. California voted in favor of Republican presidents such as Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, Ronald Reagan, and George H.W. Bush. This Republican outcome was a reflection of the anti-immigrant and anti-Mexican sentiment that had built up since the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, the mass deportations during the Great Depression, and the exploitation of Mexican labor during the Bracero program. This anti-immigrant sentiment, along with a period of recession from 1990 to 1994, placed Mexicans as the root cause of California's economic troubles. The co-author of Prop 187, Harold Essel, commented in the LA Times that money spent on undocumented immigrants was 10% of the general funds, or $3.4 billion per year. He placed this as a major cost to taxpayers and as a cause for the recession. As a result, on November 8, 1994, Prop 187 was passed with the 59% voter support. However, as soon as the proposition passed, the Latino community began to mobilize. Protests in downtown LA gathered up to 70,000 demonstrators. And the day after Prop 187 was passed, groups such as the Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund, MALDEF, the League of Latin American Citizens, LULAC, and the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, filed several lawsuits against it. Soon, the federal district judge called for a temporary injunction, preventing the enforcement of Prop 187. On March 19, 1998, the federal judge issued a permanent injunction of Prop 187. Her reasoning was that it was the federal government's job to regulate immigration and not the states. Active Latino involvement in politics continued for years after Prop 187 was revoked. Before 1994, legal Mexican immigrants were among the least likely to become citizens and were less politically involved, perhaps because they did not feel like it was necessary. However, attacks from Governor Pete Wilson created the perception that the Republican Party was anti-Latino and specifically anti-Mexican. This is when Mexicans began to be more politically involved. Between 1994 to 2000, about 1.1 million people registered to vote in California, and of those, 1 million were Hispanic or Latino. Because Latinos now associated the Republican Party with anti-immigration, they began to vote Democratic and have been doing so in every election since 1994. Although movements against Prop 187 did not provide permanent relief for undocumented immigrants, It did save our state from xenophobia, racism, and intolerance. It guaranteed that immigrants would continue to receive public services, but above all, it made California progressive for other marginalized groups to find sanctuary. California's shift to a blue state, however, did not mark a shift in national ideology. The United States as a country continues to perpetuate an anti-immigrant narrative. But perhaps we just need the Save Our State initiative applied on a national level as the Make America Great Again initiative to turn the tables around.